So 4.3. Yeah, 4.3 is all about dividing polynomials. You can see right here on the screen that we have an actual division problem. This is something that you guys would have learned in, I don't know, 5th or 6th grade with long division, right? Now, most of you can probably look at this and you can probably determine how to solve this without a calculator, without actually writing something down in long division, but we're going to practice the long division to make sure that we understand how it works. So this number is the number that goes inside the box. So I'm going to have 85 divided by 3. And excuse me, remember, as we work through, the easiest way to think about this as a little kid is instead of thinking how many times does 3 go into 85, we think of how many times does 3 go into 8. So 3 goes into 8 2 full times, and then 2 times 3 gives me 6, and then we subtract. So this is something that as we work our way through, you learn number theory and number sense as you're growing up, because it's a lot easier for a 5th grader to tell you how many times 3 goes into 25 than it is to tell them how many times 3 goes into 85. It breaks that number down and it makes it a little bit easier for them to look at. So now that being said, 3 can go into 25 8 times, so 8 times 3 is 24, and then I'm left with 1. Now right now there is nothing else to drag down, and 3 can't go into 1 anymore. So there are 2 options of what we can do. Number 1, actually there's really 3 options. Number 1, we can put a decimal and put a 0, bring it down, and then start creating our decimal up here. That's not what we're going to do. That option is not a viable option here. All right. So the next thing that we can do is we can create a remainder. So what the first thing that you learn when you learn long division is you put remainder 1, right? So you would have remainder 1. Now that is an okay thing that you could do potentially, but that's still not the thing that we're going to do. So instead of putting remainder 1, we're going to create it as a fraction. And the way that we create it as a fraction is we take this and we take this, and that creates our fraction. All right, so we're going to have 1/3 left over as our answer. Oops. So we have 28 and 1/3 as our remainder. All right, so that 1/3 is our remainder part. Now that's what we're going to be dealing with. That's what we're going to be doing. If you understand this process, then technically you understand the process of everything long division. All right, so let's go through the actual process of long division here with this. So I'm going to go through and create this problem. And we are going to divide this problem based on long division. All right, so that is what we are going to do. We are going to use long division to divide these 2 polynomials out. Now, one thing I want you to remember is polynomials means that they have multiple terms in them. So since there are multiple terms in them, we can tell that this thing is a polynomial and this thing is a polynomial. When it tells you something like this number goes inside the box, this number goes outside. All right. So the set of rules, I'm going to keep a running list of rules over here. So first things first, in the box, so inside the box, include every degree, even if you have to put a 0. All right, so that means if I had something like x to the 3rd plus 2x minus 1, notice how there's no x squared here. So inside the box, I would put x to the 3rd plus 0x squared plus 2x minus 1. So no matter what, if you are putting something inside the box, no matter what, make sure that you put every single degree there. So I know that I'm going to put every single degree in here. Just make sure that you do that. It's going to save yourself a headache in the long run. So just make sure that you're doing that step, okay? So I'm going to make sure that I have x to the 4th, x to the 3rd, x squared, x, and then my constant value, which I have all of those. So I'm going to put those in. All right, so 2x to the 4th plus 2x to the 3rd plus x squared minus x minus 1. All right, and I'm going to divide that by x squared minus x minus 1. Okay, now the next kind of thing in the list is to deal only with the first available term. So deal only with the first available term. Now that might be a little bit confusing to think about, but I'm going to circle what I mean. So the first available term is this one and this one. So I'm only dealing with the first available term. So if you look, I have two terms that are available out inside and outside the box, this one and this one. Only the first available term, okay? Now with that, what you're trying to do is I'm trying to get x squared to go into 2x to the fourth. So the question that I'm going to ask you is, how do I turn x squared into 2x to the fourth? What do you multiply this term by to get it to become this one? So someone tell me, what do I multiply x squared by to get it to turn into 2x to the fourth?
2x squared.
I would multiply it by 2x squared. So that's the number that goes up here, 2x squared. And it goes right above just the same way. So the question that I asked the last time with this question was, how many times does 3 go into 8? And the answer is 2. The answer to this one is basically, how does this one turn into this one? And the answer is up here. So it's the same exact thing with long division. Now, remember what we did in this step? Our step was to multiply, right? 2 times 3 gives me 6. I'm going to do the same thing here. 2x squared times this will go here. Then I'm going to keep going. 2x squared times this will give me this. 2x squared times this will give me this. So I'm going to keep going, okay? 2x squared times x squared will give me 2x to the fourth. 2x squared times negative x will give me negative 2x to the third. 2x squared times negative 1 will give me negative 2x squared. So I'll give you a second to make sure I'm not flying through everything. All right, now the next step will be to, so I guess that was step number 3, was to multiply. And then step 4 would be subtract. So now I'm subtracting. So now make sure you're going to watch my pen every single time that I ask you a question or say something. I literally touch my pen to the subtraction sign every single time to make sure I don't mess up my my signs. So 2x to the fourth minus 2x to the fourth is 0. 2x to the third minus negative 2x to the third. So 2x to the third minus negative means plus will give me a positive 4x to the third. This is why my pen touches every single one of these signs, because I would have messed it up otherwise. If I just look at this lined up, it's going to cancel and it's going to be 0. Can't have that happen. 2x to the third minus negative 2x to the third is a positive 4x squared, or 4x to the third. X squared minus negative 2x squared is a positive 3x squared. And then notice right here, I don't have anything else left, so I'm going to drop them down. So this term gets dropped and this term gets dropped, so minus x minus 1. Okay, so now I'm going to erase that 0 so it doesn't look confusing, because 0 plus anything is just whatever anyway. So now I'm just going to repeat these steps. I'm going to do the exact same thing that I just did, and I'm going to deal with the first available term. So deal only with the first available term. This is still the first available term right here. It still is. But now the first available term is right here. So now x squared goes into 4x to the third. So I'm trying to get x squared to turn into 4x to the third. So in order to do that, I multiply it by 4x. So x squared goes into 4x to the third by multiplying by 4x. Now we multiply. 4x times x squared is 4x to the third. 4x times negative x is negative 4x squared. And then 4x times negative 1 is negative 4x. And now we subtract. So it's just the same process, repetitive, repetitive, repetitive. And now we're just going to keep moving on. So 4x to the third minus 4x to the third is 0. 3x squared minus negative 4x squared is positive 7x squared. Negative x minus negative 4x will give me a positive 3x. And then I'm going to drop down this last term. But notice how I'm keeping everything lined up. All of the x squareds are lined up. All of the x's are lined up. All of the constants are lined up. That happens when you put this thing into standard form on the inside. So when you put it into standard form, you're good. All right. So I'm going to erase that 0 again because it has no bearing on anything. and then I'm going to deal with the first available term. So first available term, just repetitive. First available term is this one. This one is always the first available term. And then this one. So I need x squared to turn into 7x squared. The way that I'm going to do that is by multiplying it by 7. So 7 times x squared is 7x squared. 7 times negative x is negative 7x. 7 times negative 1 is negative 7. And then I subtract. 7x squared minus 7x squared is 0. 3x minus negative 7x is positive 10x. And then negative 1 minus negative 7 is a positive 6. All right. And then finally, the last thing to think about is, okay, now I'm dealing with my first available term again. So if I'm dealing with my first available term again, I look at this, x squared turns into 10x. I can't do it, right? I can't turn an x squared into an x. So this thing right here is my remainder. Oop, I missed my arrow. So this thing right here is the remainder. So what you do with the remainder is you always put a plus sign, and then you put the top of the remainder on top, and then the bottom of this thing on the bottom. So 10x plus 6 over x squared minus x minus 1. And this up here is my answer. So this is my answer. Okay, so that thing is the answer to the long division. Now that is long division. That's it. If you understand what I just did, then you understand long division perfectly. If you don't understand long division, that's fine too. Okay? If you don't understand everything that just happened, that's fine. You just have to fine tune it and fix it. But this is long division. Okay? I'm going to stop my recording.